What is up, party people? Welcome back to Cough Country. It is Steve with your cannabis news. Guys, I am excited you're back here on a Wednesday trying to catch up with everything that has been going on in the cannabis industry, and I'm here to help you do that, guys. And you picked a very special day to do it because it is 7/10. And what does that mean? Let's take a look. It is 7/10. It is officially Dab Day, guys. If you don't know what that is, if you haven't gotten a chance to partake yet, don't worry, there's still time, and I'm going to tell you all about how it goes down in just a minute. After that, we are going to go right over to the election. Guys, the election cycle is starting up, and I'll be honest with you, it's depressing me a little bit. So I took the time, I figured I would take a look at the independent candidate and see where he stood on cannabis, and I'm going to tell you exactly where that lies. After that, we're going to go over to the Supreme Court. Guys, they just made a ruling that might have a big effect on rescheduling. It has a chance to put it down. And I'm going to tell you how that all came about. And after that, we are going over to Ohio, a little small town in Ohio where the police chief just got fired for not taking a drug test. Was he smoking weed? Was he not? A whole lot of drama there. We're going to dig into it in just a second. It's a little bit of fun. After that, we are looking at the alcohol and tobacco industry. An independent health researcher just rang the bells, is calling out a marijuana regulatory group that she says is being infiltrated by alcohol, tobacco, and pharmaceutical interests. So stick around, we're going to talk about why that cannot happen. And after that, we're finally going to round out to the strains of yesterday, where we are looking at the strains that made us who we are today. And one of my very favorite ones, we're talking about the sweet, the tasty, the delicious, the blueberry. You all know it, you love it. But don't go anywhere, because after that, my boy Tyler's gonna come on. He's got a little word from Late Night Green. They got this chance to sit down with John Cohn, the CEO of the High Roller Dispensary in Atlantic City, probably the best dispensary I've ever been to, and the site of the future, New Jersey's first future weed lounge. So Guy knows all about the industry. Really interesting interview. We got a clip coming up for you. You're not going to want to miss it. And we're getting into all that right now on Cough Country News. Don't go anywhere. We're getting into it.
How you doing? This is Yai for Home of Cannabis, and you're watching Cough Country TV. We're here, baby.
What up? It's your girl, comedian Nikki Hu, the queen of real, and you're watching Cough Country TV.
No sticks, no seeds, just news.
All right, guys.
From the Cough Country News Desk, it's Steve with your cannabis news.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it is officially July 10th. It is 7/10, and who in the class can tell me what that means? That's right, my little stoner in the back. You are correct. 7/10 is officially Dab Day. Oh my goodness. So of course 420 is the big kahuna of all cannabis holidays, right? People have been lighting up since the 70s to celebrate it, but it is a new age for marijuana consumption, and the current generation has demanded another day to celebrate the wackiest of weeds. Of course, you might not be getting off work for this holiday. Hey, that happens, but you can still enjoy your cannabis concentrates in solidarity with your Cough Country citizens, with your fellow citizens, guys. I encourage you to do it. So, of course, 420, that's the famous cannabis holiday, right? So it started out with a bunch of high school kids that were meeting up to smoke weed at 420. It makes sense, but of course there's a whole bunch of rumor and legend around it that makes the picture a little bit fuzzy, but there's a rhyme and reason to how it started. So where the hell did 710 come from? Who made this one up? Well, the easiest answer for you is that 710 upside down spells oil. So that's what it looks like. And that's reason enough for people to pick 710 as a day to kind of light their oil up, right? But the specifics of 710, who started it, how it started, it's even murkier than 420. Now, some people say it was a bunch of Grateful Dead fans that were responsible for the first 710. So they're the ones that picked 710 for marijuana, and who's to say that deadheads needed another day? But hey, in 1966 to 68, the Grateful Dead resided at 710 Ashbury Street in San Francisco, kind of the home of the hippie movement, the whole big thing, and that's really where the band came into its own. So for that reason, 710, the 710 Ashbury has been a destination for deadheads ever since, and it's become a leading reason as to why 710 has become 710. Other people point to rapper and cannabis activist Task Rock as the originator of 710. So this guy was working with a titanium production company. They're making dab nails, concentrate accessories, all this. And he, during that time, he dropped his new album, The Movement, in 2011 that had a bunch of songs on it like Boil the Oil and 710 that were all about like vaping concentrates, concentrate consumption. So he apparently, rumor says, he wanted to pick a day that was going to be all about oil and make it a thing. So he landed on 710 because, flip it upside down, spells oil. So he got on the video chat forum, Tiny Chat, started spreading the idea of 710, and before long, it's kind of slowly creeped into the lexicon and kind of caught on with the community. So let's remember, Dab Day is not just about celebrating concentrates, right? It's all about celebrating how concentrates are a part of our lives today. So remember, concentrates are not a new thing, right? People have been removing the trichomes from the plant and pressing it into hash for thousands of years, for a very long time. It was always a more sensible approach to kind of transporting, storing marijuana in the ancient world. So it definitely made sense. Hash medicine kind of started becoming popular in Europe in the 18th century, And in the 40s to the 60s in the US government started experimenting with hash serums in the MK Ultra program that famously used LSD and other psychedelics to try to institute a program of mind control in the people. By the 70s, they were making hash oil with butane. They got as strong as 30% THC, stronger than anything else people were seeing at the time. But it wasn't until the 2000s and the advent of the closed-loop extraction systems that we got modern concentrates like wax, butter, things like that. So it wasn't until then that things like this came into the picture. This process was able to preserve more of the plant's natural cannabinoids and its terpene profile than anything that ever came before it. So when you're dabbing, right, you are vaporizing the oils and resins of the plants directly. You know, all the good compounds and the cannabinoids that you want in that smoke. So you're inhaling virtually pure cannabinoids in this, no plant material whatsoever. So of course this is going to be better for your lungs, but the caveat there is you're inhaling a lot of cannabinoids all at the same time, right? So if you are celebrating 710, please do it. This legendary 710, do it with love, people. And I want newbies to beware out there, because if weed is going to put you on your ass, guys, it's going to be a dab to do it. So when you go out there and enjoy 710, enjoy it with caution, okay? I want you to be safe, all right? So elsewhere, guys, it's time for the presidential election. And in the U.S., it's time again for douchebag or turd sandwich. And if you've been watching the debate, guys, you know the choices are douchier and turdier than they've ever been. So I decided to take a look at the other candidate that's going to be in the race, and tell you kind of where he stands on cannabis. So I'm not here to tell you what to think of the guy. I have my thoughts, you have yours. But I want you to know where Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the independent and long shot candidate, stands when it comes to cannabis, okay? So the nephew of the late President John F. Kennedy, and the guy they didn't even let weigh in on the debate, has some actually pretty progressive views when it comes to cannabis. And if your candidate for president needs to be a marijuana advocate, guys, this might be your guy. So right out the gate, he is all about federal legalization, right? So I think Biden would legalize too if he could. But when Biden reaches out for this cannabis reform, when he talks about it, it just has this feeling like he's reaching for votes, right? When Kennedy talks about reform, he just doesn't have that vibe. So sure, I mean, Kennedy is so far behind popular support of the other two candidates, he probably doesn't have to debase himself to try to grab for the popular vote, right? He can probably just sit there and be honest. But more than that, he talks about legalization in terms of public health, right, with addiction and the opioid crisis going on, and also in terms of prison reform, which makes me trust the guy. And he's also pretty open about his past drug use, right? So he was an addict for 14 years in his youth, for a long, long time. So he's pretty sensitive to issues around substance abuse, and that's reasonable. So when he looks at, as he said, when he looks at the state of the nation, you know what he said? He said he was legitimately worried about the proliferation of stimulants and mind-altering substances. He straight up said, I don't think it's a good thing for people. So he's not really a fan of marijuana per se, and he's definitely not promoting its use out there. He's kind of taking a step back. It's not really his thing. But despite that, what he did say was, I do believe in personal freedoms. Quote, a quarter of the people in the jails are in there for minor drug offenses, many of them for marijuana, which is now legal in many states. So he wants to legalize it in order to end the rampant imprisonment of our nonviolent citizens, which is something I can respect. In one interview, he said, quote, we need to start healing our country in many ways. And one of the ways he wants to do that is to use tax revenue exclusively for drug treatment and rehabilitation in America. He keeps pointing to the dramatic rise in mental illness and drug addiction that has pretty much stampeded across the nation in recent years. Kind of in recent history, it's been a big problem. And he's looking at marijuana reform to provide the funds to open up a series of treatment centers across the nation so we can kind of start making addiction and treatment easy, simple, and cheap. Make it actually available to the people. He's also saying that this drug industry, he spent some time in it, so the drug treatment industry has kind of become this predatory practice that he says needs to end. He's also a big fan of banking reform. So he wants businesses to be able to bank their profits and their revenues rather than keeping it all in cash under the mattress, which just encourages crime, which makes sense. And it's good news for cannabis businesses. And if he's relying on cannabis tax revenue, if that's important to him, then he better damn sure make sure that those taxable profits are on the books. So his support for marijuana also kind of bleeds into the psychedelic world, right? He points to all the success people have been having with psychedelic therapies for things like PTSD, depression, substance abuse, OCD, all sorts of things. And he says we need easier access to this kind of medicine. So he calls his whole approach just simply common sense and truth-telling. And honestly, it's been winning him support from both sides. But we're going to wait and see in November to see if it was enough to kind of get him over the finish line. And I'm not sure if it will be. All right, guys, don't go anywhere. We got more cannabis news coming to you right after a word from our sponsor. Don't go anywhere. It's just going to take a second. What are you complaining about? Come on.
In terms of marijuana, I think it should happen.
This is a flower. Some people might try to tell you that it's a Schedule I controlled substance. They might scream drugs, drugs, drugs over and over and over again. They might put drugs in all caps. You might even start to believe that this is a drug, but it's not. This is medicine.
I'm Rob Cantrell, and you're watching Cough Country TV. Right here, right now. This is it. You're watching it. Cough Country. You're in this country, cough it up. Cough it up for Cough Country TV. Right here, right now, on the internet and beyond. Media, television, pizza, weed, legalized.
Thank you, Rob Cantrell. What a good introduction back in. Guys, thank you for sticking around. We got more news right now. Let's not wait. Why wait? So we're going over to the Supreme Court now. So they just recently heard a little obscure case that they heard that has people ringing alarm bells, and industry insiders are saying that people could use this case to put a bullet in rescheduling just like they did with Old Yeller. Nobody wants that. So since 1984, there's been this thing called the Chevron deference doctrine, right? It's this thing where when Congress passes a law and they leave room for interpretation in there, the courts have an obligation to listen to the regulatory agency that it falls under to know how to kind of interpret that law and how to proceed, right? So say marijuana is illegal, the DEA is the one in charge of regulating it, so they're going to step in and tell the courts how to proceed there. That's kind of how that's going to work. So with this latest decision, they've recently overturned Chevron and taken a big chunk of the DEA's power to regulate cannabis away from them, right? So obviously marijuana regulation has been a nightmare across the country for a while. Nobody's arguing that. You know, between federal law and state law and all the landmines that are in between. And the regulatory framework of marijuana has been kind of figuring it out as it goes along. Remember, guys, we've been building this thing from scratch. There was nothing here before, and it's definitely been a bumpy road, right? So this sounds great. Hell yeah, like let's get rid of, let's reduce regulation. Let's let marijuana industry grow organically. Why not, right? But the reason insiders are so upset about this is that the overturning of Chevron opens the door for Congress to step in and weigh in on the rescheduling process, right? So up until now, rescheduling has been a regulatory process, right? We're not changing the law. Marijuana stays illegal. So the DEA is the body in charge of marijuana. So they are the ones deciding which schedule it is regulated under, not what the law says, right? So now, after this, now it allows with Chevron gone, it allows the Congress to kind of step in and say, oh, guys, I don't think we should be doing it like this. So it all of a sudden becomes a legislative issue, right, that Congress has to step in and vote on. So we all know if Congress has to agree on something, it's almost a guarantee that it will never get done. And rescheduling will die right there, right where opponents can get their filthy little hands on it. Either they can vote it down or they can tie it up in courts in the appeals process ad infinitum for years and years ahead. So obviously the DEA has not been a great captain behind the wheel of legalization, right? But have prohibitionists really found a way to tear away the modest, tiny little victory that rescheduling was going to be for us? Man, well, not everybody is all calling doom and gloom here, okay? Some people are saying that is not how this is going to go down. So it is not as easy as everyone is saying to override the DEA, with or without Chevron there. And they've been chipping away at Chevron for years. So they're saying by the time they killed it, it was chock full of holes anyway. And in court, like when the DEA goes to court, they don't even use it as a defense anymore. So it's pretty much been thrown out as it is. So even though the DEA can be overruled here, the courts have been instructed to show significant deference to the agency's ruling. So they need a very good reason to argue with them. So yeah, there is some wiggle room there, but it's not going to be the free-for-all people are afraid of. They've also been instructed to show significant deference to the Department of Justice. And the Department of Justice is a part of the White House, right? And they are pushing for rescheduling hard. So that's even less room for them to get in there and do some damage. So yes, nothing is for certain right now. You know, in the coming months, we're going to see how this whole flag unfurls. But I'll tell you one thing. The water is murkier than it's ever been. And it does make me just a little touch nervous. So elsewhere, guys, we're going over to Ohio. And a police chief in a little Ohio town just got canned for refusing to take a drug test after the mayor came in and said the smell of marijuana coming from his office could knock you off your feet. So in New Miami, Ohio, it's this little town of just over 2,000 people, Mayor Jule Hensley and Police Chief Harold Webb, sorry, I can't speak right now. Police Chief Harold Webb have been nursing a pretty epic rivalry for a while now. So the mayor, but the mayor might be using marijuana to come out on top of this one. So the mayor just shows up at the police office, right? She's there to collect the chief's time log. She's accusing him of falsifying his timesheets. It's a whole thing. But the first thing she says when she steps into the office is, "Who's been smoking weed in here?" So apparently she smelled weed. She walked around and found the police chief in the garage area with a buddy of his. And apparently that was enough to accuse him of smoking weed and force him to take a drug test. Right? She even had an attorney serve the guy a letter instructing him to take a piss test by 5 p.m. the next day or face disciplinary action. Although I don't know what discipline he was going to face for that, but whatever. And the police chief just comes back and says, look, there's 850 grams of marijuana we seized sitting in the police office, and that's what you smelled, guys. Sounds pretty reasonable to me, but the guy still showed up for the pee test. But the final line he drew in the sand, the line he would not cross, was when the mayor arranged for a nurse to physically watch him pee as an official witness. I mean, the poor guy just threw his hands up, said that's enough, and he walked out. He said called the whole process belittling. He then texted the mayor and said, you know what, you win, all right? And he promised he'd put in his letter of resignation later that evening, saying he was tired of his integrity being questioned. Well, he didn't, and he got fired. But a look into how they got to this whole point in the first place kind of reveals this little hilarious feud that is part small town rap beef, part the Real Housewives of Nowhere, Ohio, right? So it's kind of funny. So both of these participants have held their current position for under a year, right? But they've been going back and forth the whole time. And part of the mayor's complaint here, part of her complaint is that the police chief, well, hasn't been very nice to her at all. In fact, he's been harassing her over a car she abandoned on the side of the road after it broke down. That's not very nice. And she even said that the mayor, he caused the last mayor to turn on her after he complained about her harassing the police chief. And all the other officials in the government have been disrespecting her through mean, nasty little emails. They've been being so not nice to her that she had to go to the hospital to get a heart monitor installed, all because of all that stress she's under. She even tried to get the police chief suspended for taking hot dogs from a gas station. I guess he was only allowed free coffee, but come on, man. She tried to fire him when his wife made comments on the town's Facebook page that she said degraded me as mayor. And then she got the whole page taken down because she didn't like the comments. She tried to get this guy canned for refusing to answer 911 calls when the town's police force is part-time. And when they're not working, those calls get rolled over to the county sheriff's office. So after all of that, after all of this, she comes in and accuses him of smoking weed in the police station. My God. And at the end of the day, after all that, he just never turned in his resignation, and they voted to fire him right then and there. So, yeah, there might be a few facts I don't have here, guys. There's two sides to every fight, but I'm getting some pretty hard Karen vibes here, man. Marijuana has been legalized in Ohio by popular ballot. They're surrounded by states that have all legalized marijuana. So in light of that, I want to make a request to New Miami, Ohio. Guys, let's leave marijuana out of this. It had nothing to do with you, and this has nothing to do with this fight. As a matter of fact, you know what? You both should light up and talk this out, and maybe you'd be able to get beyond this ridiculousness pretty quick. That's what I think. All right, guys, don't go anywhere. We got more news coming in right after this. Just a little news. Maybe Rob will come back, give you a little treat. Huh? Don't go anywhere.
No, our motto is when they go low, we get high.
This is a flower. Some people might try to tell you that it's a Schedule 1 controlled substance. They might scream drugs, drugs, drugs over and over and over again. They might put drugs in all caps. You might even start to believe that this is a drug, but it's not. This is medicine.
Guys, welcome back. Thanks for sticking around. See, that wasn't so bad, was it? So we're going back into the news here, and it's got a pretty important story here. People in the know are getting pissed off because after a public health analyst called out a marijuana regulatory group for allowing alcohol, tobacco, and pharmaceutical interests to attend their events. Right, and thank God for people like Jane Allen here, who's a researcher with RTI International, this small nonprofit research institute that kind of brought this to everyone's attention, because this is one of those things that's so small and so boring that it's just incredibly easy to ignore. But small and unnoticed is how the fox gets into the henhouse, right? And it's how alcohol, tobacco stake their claim on cannabis right under our noses, guys. We need to pay attention here. So the organization at fault is the Cannabis Regulators Association, right? CANRA for short. So these guys are cannabis regulators, right? They are in charge of how marijuana laws are put into effect. And they're all members of government agencies here. So they're supposed to keep themselves separate from private interests. So they allow no memberships, sponsorships, no funding or anything like that from anybody representing industries or any non-governmental groups like tobacco, alcohol, pharmaceuticals, or cannabis industries. That's in there too. So those kind of interests can't really advise them either. They kind of block them out. And that's an absolutely necessary thing. right? Because, I mean, imagine if we had Ohio cannabis in the pocket of Johnson & Johnson, right? That'd be a disaster. We just can't allow that. So in light of that, in that very obvious reality, the CANRA has a rule, right? They do not allow alcohol, tobacco, or pharmaceutical interests to attend any of their events. But the group, the Coalition for Cannabis Policy, Education, and Regulation, recently attended an event they had in Minnesota. So let's say it, the Coalition for Cannabis Policy, Education, and Regulation, right? That sounds pretty innocent. I'm not going to say it. That sounds innocent until you find out that they represent huge global tobacco interests like Altria, Reynolds America, as well as Molson Coors, a huge international alcohol conglomerate. And what cannabis policy do you think they're advocating for? So several people brought this to CANRA's attention, but CANRA looked at that and they took absolutely no action and welcomed the coalition group to their event with open arms. So again, thank God for Jane Allen, who published her letter criticizing the group, and they've been taking a lot of flack for it ever since. So the representative in question here is Shanita Penny, who is actually currently the executive director of the Coalition for Cannabis Policy, Education, and Regulation. But CANRA, when CANRA was told about this, CANRA said no. We asked her, and she said she wasn't representing alcohol and tobacco when she came. She was representing other people. And you know what? Penny said the same thing. She said the people she was representing had nothing to do with those mega corporations at all. But she went right on to say that groups like CANRA would be better off if they did let alcohol and tobacco and pharmaceuticals into their group, saying, quote, "Consider the consequences," she said. "Nationwide cannabis regulation, devoid of input from highly regulated industries, will undoubtedly mirror the failures we have witnessed in several states across the country." So, all right, so regulators are supposed to listen to tobacco because cigarettes are regulated? Are you kidding me, guys? Come on. So they're getting worried. So they're worried about. So people are getting worried about like how this is going to happen, right? So alcohol, tobacco, and pharmaceuticals, guys. These guys are losing an incredible amount of money and market share to legal cannabis. This is how it's going to happen, guys. They are waiting in the wings to swoop in and take cannabis for themselves, to claim it for themselves. And the more legal cannabis becomes, the more they are going to make grabs for our cannabis. This is our medicine. This is our way. It's our culture, guys. And it's already happening. Look at this story. It's already happening. They're already in the meetings. They're already shaking the right hands. They're already whispering in the right ears. They already have their lobbyists in the halls of government buying cannabis out from under us. So this is why we need to watch out for these kind of things. We need to pay attention because I'm worried that they're going to take cannabis culture and nail it to a sales report to leave it there to die. And guys, by the time we hear about these stories, by the time it makes it to us, it's already been done. The deal has been made and it's out of our hands. Public scrutiny is the last tool that we have left, the last thing these big corporations fear, and we need to use it to step up and be aware of what they are doing and to say no to it. But in order to say no, guys, we have to be aware in the first place. Please pay attention out there. It's these small things. All right, guys, coming back, a little bit of a lighter story. We're looking at the strains of yesterday. We are looking at the legends, the legendary cannabis strains that have built cannabis culture into what it is today and who we have to thank for what we see before us. And today, we're looking at one of the more unique strains in the cannabis lexicon and one you can still find pretty much everywhere. The delightful, the delicious. And if you have had anything with blue in it, you know what we're talking about. We are talking blueberry. I'm excited. So blueberry first saw the light of day back in the 80s, right? And it came directly from the skill hands of a guy who earned the nickname the Willy Wonka of pot. We were talking about the legendary breeder DJ Short. This is a good guy to know. So he was a Detroit native before he moved over to Eugene, Oregon and started his career growing cannabis in the 70s. Now he kind of reminisces when he was growing up. Whenever he found like a good strain, a good weed, it was only around for a little bit, and then it was impossible to find. The only thing around was Mexican brickweed after that. He got so tired of it in 1973, he got a hold of this little plastic seed starter he got out of a cereal box, right? And he shoved a whole Hawaiian bud he had in there. He was just saving it for a rainy day, and I guess it had a seed in there, because when he put that Hawaiian bud in there, all of a sudden he grew his first official cannabis sativa. Now in that time, everybody was all about these high-grade sativa land races that everybody was importing from all over the world. That's what everybody was about. Indica was only just being introduced. People were seeing it as a hash plant. It wasn't really for smoking flower. Nobody really knew what to do with it, right? But this was also the time that proper indoor grow lights started to become commercially available. And the war on drugs was reaching a new fervor, a whole new height. So all of these marijuana grows were starting to move indoors. And that's why hybrids started becoming this big popular thing. Because how do you grow a 20-foot sativa that takes 5 months to mature in a basement in Oregon, right? I'll tell you how you do it. You cross it with an indica that only grows 6 feet tall and flowers in 8 weeks. That's how you do it. So, and this is the current culture that DJ Short was kind of making a name for himself in, right? So all of the strains that he gave the world, and he gave the world several, they all came from only 4 genetics that he was working with: Thai, chocolate Thai, Afghan, and Oaxacan gold. That is it. So all these strains, they were special. Not everybody could get them, but they weren't necessarily obscure. They were available to people. So why was DJ Short the only one who was able to capitalize on this sweet purple goodness? Why was nobody else able to find it? Well, I'll tell you, because he did something that nobody else was doing at the time. So at this time, right, cannabis strains, they tended to veer one way or the other, sativa or indica, either sweet, citrus, woody, or kind of earthy, spicy, a little bit gassy. This purple flavor, purple color, it wasn't really a thing yet. People weren't looking for it. They had never seen it. DJ kind of just stumbled on it by accident. So when you breed cannabis, what do? You take one male, like I said, like you take a male, you put it with a bunch of females, and you let it pollinate. So when you take your females, you're able to kind of pick and choose the traits you want to pass on to the next generation. You can see it right in front of you. But you can't really do that with males. Males don't flower, so you don't necessarily know what you're going to pass on to the next generation. It's a bit of a genetic grab bag. So everybody who was hybridizing at the time, they were taking sativa males and crossing that with indica females. They were chasing the smaller, faster growing traits of indicas, so that's why they wanted the indica females. But DJ did it the other way. He took an indica male and crossed it with sativa females. He wasn't so big on indicas. He wanted to pick and choose his sativas. And so basically what he did was he got a hold of this really pure indica seed, right? It came from another kind of marijuana growing group, and he used that to pollinate this sativa that he really liked and he was working with. It was called Purple Thai. So Purple Thai was a cross between chocolate Thai and Oaxacan gold. It had all these really good purple notes to it. So that first generation of that cross, it was a pretty standard mix between an indica and sativa. It was kind of right in the middle, had a lot of flavor, good qualities. He liked it. He actually called that strain Flow, and he kept it. But because of that grab bag of indica genetics that were coming through, the babies of Flow, they started to kind of branch off. You saw all these different phenotypes starting to come out. And one of those was this deep purple berry note that DJ thought was really cool. He had never seen before. So in order to bring that out, he took another Thai strain called Juicy Fruit, some really fruity tropical strain, and crossed that into Flow. And after years of stabilizing, he was able to really nail down that sweet, juicy note, that deep purple berry flavor, and it turned into the blueberry that we know and love and changed the game for all cannabis strains to come. So of course DJ kept on breeding. You know, he was giving his seeds out to seed banks, but it was really his customers in Eugene, Oregon that really made blueberry famous. Now remember, blueberry wasn't called blueberry on this time. It didn't have a name yet, so while he was working on that what would become the blueberry strain, he was also working on a bunch of other things too. And he was selling all his work to his customers, right? He's got to keep the lights on. How else do you do it? But when his customers kept coming back, he'd offer them what he had, but they were going, no, I don't want that one. I want the kind you gave me before, you know, that kind. So people started calling, so until like the 80s, 90s, people only called blueberry the kind. That's what it was called. Which is also not to be confused with kind bud, which is a term that came out of Hawaii for generically really good weed, right? So that's how blueberry kind of came from. Eugene was also really a stopover town for all the musicians and acts that were playing in Portland at the time. So Eugene, Oregon got this reputation for being this really cool place with this killer music scene and this chill place for artists to come and kick back while they were on tour. So as DJ put it, all the cool rich kids would come up to Eugene, smoke their weed, and take the genetics back to Northern California. And that's how blueberry really got out and became as ubiquitous as it really became. So if you smoke the blueberry strain, you're going to notice a uniquely, really delicious scent and note in it. It's got this really rich, fruity, deep flavor to it, a little bit of an earthy undertone with these calm, soothing effects that really well balance, with a body high that really well balances the more energetic notes of the sativa genetics. So it's really a perfect strain if you want to just kick back, unwind, but not completely go to sleep. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed blueberry. If you've ever had it before, let me know in the comments. I want to know what your favorite blueberry strain is, and if you smoked it back in the day, I want to hear what it was like back then. But guys, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. Tyler's going to come on. He's going to introduce a little skit or this little section from Late Night Green. They talk to John Cohn. You're not going to want to miss it. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back.
This is a flower. Some people might try to tell you that it's a Schedule I controlled substance. They might scream drugs, drugs, drugs over and over and over again. They might put drugs in all caps. You might even start to believe that this is a drug, but it's not. This is medicine.
I'm Rob Cantrell, and you're watching Cough Country TV. Right here, right now. This is it. You're watching it. Cough Country. You're in this country, cough it up. Cough it up for Cough Country TV. Right here, right now, on the internet and beyond. Media, television, pizza, weed, legalized.
This is a flower.
Yo, what up? It's Shice Bubs, Mr. Ikiki, and you're watching Cough Country TV. You heard? Hey! This is Vinny Idol D Block, man, hailing out the Bronx, and you're watching Cough Country TV. Yeah!
Cough Country Nation, how are we? How are we?
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. I got my boy Tyler here. Say what's up, Tyler.
How's it going? How's it going?
Hey, so Tyler, the news continues. Tyler, I'm excited you're here, man. I hear you got a little story from Late Night Green going on, right?
We do.
Tell me about it, baby.
So on our last Late Night Green episode, Philly Phil interviewed John Cohn, CEO of High Roller Dispensary. Yeah. And he took a little bit of a deep dive on what it means to be an entrepreneur in the new world of cannabis. So let's take a look.
I love it. We got a clip for you. Let's take a look. See what he said.
So that's pretty cool, and again, kudos to you for what you've done with the dispensary. So tell us about the part of the tour we did here where we saw it connected to, or maybe we should even take a step back and talk about the relationship with the Claridge, because that's an interesting deal that you put together. And we're talking about a city where the casinos are dying, and when the casinos die, the hotel rooms die. And you really created a pretty interesting idea that is, in my opinion, a win-win, like across the board. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, yeah, as we were discussing earlier, one of the visions we have for the future is really this mix of cannabis and hospitality. So it's not just that, you're home smoking in your living room and you're watching a movie, but maybe you want to go out and play arcade games while you're consuming, or go to a spa while you're consuming, or, just be social, hang out in a social setting with others who are consuming. And the visions, where do you do that? And Claridge just made a lot of sense for a number of reasons. Number one, they don't have a casino, so there's no violation of federal gaming laws with local, or even state gaming laws with cannabis. So whereas many of the other casinos, right, they can't have them, at least not yet. Claridge itself was struggling a little, and still is, because Bally's is next door. They're connected. They're putting $100 million into their rooms to redo them, and they're already currently they're running them at $39 a night on some of the slower nights, whereas Claridge needs to get more than that just to cover cleaning costs and what have you, because they don't get gaming revenue.
Sure, those supplemental revenue.
So they're really, it's tough for them to compete. So for them to leverage cannabis consumption in the hotel, in rooms, in specific areas that we can maybe do private membership clubs in, and our public lounge, which we're in the middle of getting approved through the state now, really brings a new vigor to Claridge that didn't exist before. And that's, and the ownership is they're good business people, and they're looking at it from the real estate investors, but at the same time, how do you increase the value of that property?
And so I'm...
Hey guys, so that's definitely some pretty cool stuff. Believe it or not, I actually got to sit down with John Cohn in another interview too. We really get into depth. If you guys want to know more about the industry, this is the guy you want to listen to. So go over to the Cough Country YouTube channel. We got a full interview there. Check out Late Night Green though. This is more of the stuff we're going to be seeing on Late Night Green, kind of conversations, talking to people, kind of picking people's brains. And John is a great place to start. He knows everything about the cannabis industry. He's an OG in it. So if you get a chance to watch it, I definitely would.
Absolutely.
But I'm pumped Tyler's here. He's my boy here. Tyler, tell me a little bit about yourself. You partake? You're a citizen?
Here and there.
Here and there.
I indulge.
He's being delicate. How do you? What's your favorite way to partake? You do joints? You do dabs? What do you do?
I'm a joint kind of guy.
You a joint kind of guy?
Yeah, I think dabs might be a little too much for me.
Too much. That's fair. So are you wake and bake? Are you all day? Do you have end of the day? What do you do?
We can do wake and bake. I do a little bit at end of the day most of the time. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I like it. I'm once in a while. I'm a throughout the day, but I can't get too much. Like before this stuff, I can't smoke. Otherwise, I can't remember a damn word. But so you're gonna be coming on doing some news, right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I might be the new host, hopefully.
Oh, I'm pumped about it because guys, I've got a little announcement. I'm gonna be taking a step away for a little while. I got some other projects that I'm gonna be working on. But much love for Cough Country. I ain't gonna be gone forever. Much love to this place, to you guys. I love that you've heard me. I love that we've been able to keep up on everything. But the Cough Country news is not gonna be done. Tyler, my boy, is gonna keep it up, and you're gonna be seeing a lot of new faces coming in, bringing the news to you. So I'm excited. I hope you're excited too.
I'm excited. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Just in the middle of the summer, and guys, that's gonna be the news for today. It's not going to be the news. Oh.
Well, hang on.
Philly Phil. Hang on a second. So guys, this is Philly Phil in the flesh. Philly Phil in the flesh right now.
Hey guys, what's going on? So I just wanted to take just a quick minute before we end this broadcast to thank Steve for everything that he's done. I know this is only temporary, but I wouldn't want you to leave any other way than with me being here to thank you for everything that's been done. You're the man, and we can't wait for your leave of absence to end and you're back. But before we do that, we've got a little bit of a treat for you. A little bit of a tribute to some of your work that you've done with Cough Country over the years.
All the way back?
All the way back.
Oh, God, no.
So, if I could ask the control room to go ahead and
Hello,
run this video.
citizens.
Here we go.
This is Justin Token. And this is it, coughcountry.tv. And we are about to take you on a cultural journey in a way only Cough Country can. Welcome back, citizens. This is Cough Country News. I'm Justin Token, and this is your 5-minute news brief. So Attorney General Jeff Sessions, our ever favorite, has been popping up again in the news. She's championed the cannabis legalization movement multiple times in the Nebraska Senate, but every time she's been overcome and stymied by filibusters on the Senate floor.
And we're putting a call out to all our citizen reporters out there. If you've got cannabis-related news in your community, or our community as a whole, please contact us.
We are here at the History of Cannabis Museum with David Victorson. He's author of 37 Tons. Now this book has been making some rounds. It's been topping some charts here. Now tell me kind of what's in the book. I pick it up off the shelf. What am I looking at here? It's kind of a broad question, right?
Yeah, beautiful cover.
Yeah, beautiful cover. That's what I noticed first. Yeah. It is lovely.
Yeah, well, the story of 37 tons is in 1978, I was busted 240 miles off the coast of Seattle on a freighter called the Helena Star. And on board, the Coast Guard and DEA found 37 tons of pot.
That's a lot of pot.
Hey guys, this is Justin Token with Cough Country News. Thanks for joining us. We got a great guest today. It's Tim Madsen from the Cannabis Culture Film Festival. What's going on, Tim? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Not too bad, man. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time.
Like the first one.
Canada is becoming the first G7 nation to officially, federally legalize cannabis.
We got back to Canada.
So we got some big news from the FDA this week. So they actually put their first official stamp of approval on a cannabis medication. It's finally happened.
So we've been following a story on Oklahoma. It recently became one of the most conservative states to adopt one of the most progressive medical programs we've seen so far. But South Korea sounds like they might be the one to challenge all that. Representative Shin Chang-yun has been crusading to revise the country's Act on the Control of Narcotics and allow in cannabis-based medications into the country.
Live from the Cough Country News Desk, Justin Token.
Hi, this is Justin Token with Cough Country News, and this is your 5-minute news break. And recently, I just stumbled across a new offering from Harpoon Brewing that I'm super pumped to try. It's called Reckweed, and essentially they've made a non-alcoholic IPA that they've infused with THC instead.
The first one we ever did.
But we here at Cough Country want to give a shout out to the ladies of cannabis. The Harris Poll just conducted a survey on behalf of MedNet Enterprises. It's this big multi-state cannabis company, right? And the numbers that they threw out were really, really interesting. It turns out that 30% of women polled, that's women 21 and up, 37% use cannabis. That's more than 1 in 3. 1 in 4 using it at least once a month. And the group New Riders of the Purple Sage even have the strain to thank for their only real hit, Panama Red. Panama Red. It'll steal your woman, then it'll rob your head. Panama Red. In 1973. Thank you. Stop.
We have Dr. J on the line to help us get to the bottom of it. She's our friendly neighborhood medical marijuana doctor. She's a practicing physician. She specializes in medical cannabis, and she knows what's in your weed. She's going to help us today figure out what the heck is CBN. Dr. J, thank you so much for coming on. I am very excited. I cannot hold on.
Absolutely. Me too. Thank you. Me too. This is good information.
Yeah, I think so. But before we get into it, I have to let you know, I'm a very smart man. I know a lot about marijuana, especially that CBD stuff. See it everywhere, know all about it. CBN, I saw that the other day. It's 1 letter off. It's most likely the same thing. Am I right?
Absolutely not, but bless your heart.
Oh, bless your heart. I know what that means. It's not nice.
Oh, what is that? Oh, man, you're stacked. You're showing off.
We totally want him over.
So, Johnny, how are you celebrating 420 this year?
I am busy as hell, man. We did a huge event last night in downtown Phoenix. It was called Buds-a-Palooza.
What's up, Cough Country? I am sitting down with John Cohn, one of the owners of High Roller Dispensaries here in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And we're going to make sure we get some B-roll of this place because this place is absolutely beautiful.
This is Justin Token, and you are watching Cough Country TV. All right, guys, thanks so much for checking us out. This is Cough Country News. Be sure you like, subscribe, follow, tell a friend, go over to Rumble, watch Late Night Green, check out Harlem Reporter. It's all coming in here on Cough Country. And come back here next time where it's always no sticks, no seeds, just news. You know what you come for, baby. Steve with the news. I'll see you next time, guys.
Well, how you like that?
I'm surprised you didn't burn half of that, but
You didn't cry.
I didn't cry. I was thinking about it. I'm touched, man. I'm touched. That's sweet.
Nah, listen.
really sweet.
We just want to thank you for everything. We can't wait till you're back, and we will try to hold the house down until you get back.
Dude, thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Cough Country, Phil. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Kevin in the back. Thank you.
Give everybody the Kev, go full screen with these guys, and I'm gonna let Steve do his exit the way he always does it.
All right, guys, it's time. Thank you so much for showing up to the news. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something today. Be sure you like, subscribe, follow Cough Country News. Tell a friend so nobody misses out on this good news goodness. Guys, I'm going to miss you. I'll be back. But I will see you next time. This has been Cough Country News, where it's no sticks, no seeds. Just news, baby.
Just news, baby.
Just news. I love it. Guys, thank you so much. Goodbye, goodbye. Well, da, 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 da. Oh, da, da.
No sticks, no seeds, just news.
Oh, that was so sweet.
Good job.
All right, what was it?
Killed that shit.
Oh, you did too.
I was gonna add something.